Hi, welcome to the Sunday, September 7th, 2025 Massachusetts Pirate News. My name's James O'Keefe. I'm chair of the party, and I'm joined today by Steve and Joe. How are the two of you?
Doing great.
Heidi ho.
So we've got a couple of things to talk about. One, just a reminder, we do have our 2025 Administrative Coup Memory Bank, where we keep track of various articles that have come across our transom uh, about, Trump's effort to turn us from the republic that we are into the authoritarian dictatorship that he wants. So, with that, speaking of that, uh, we have efforts coming up by, this is reported in the New York Times. Um, about ICE starting another operation in the Boston area, ostensibly because crime is so bad, even though crime has continued to fall since well before the pandemic. And of course, we're Boston, for example, is a sanctuary city, as is my native Somerville. And so um, he's going to be going after them because, we don't help them to oppress people who are just looking for a better life. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's another stab at the authoritarianism, like you were saying before. We we honestly have one of the lowest crime rates in the nation, and the fact that a lot of people are just here to go to school, they're here to work, they're here to do what they have to do, and whether you have family here or you're here to help support, it's a lot of people are just doing what they have to do. And this is just going to add a lot more disruption to our society.
Yeah, I mean, I think LA provides, a nice framework or at least some useful practical ideas for, what to do when, um, what to do when, you know, fed ups, for lack of a better word, start in your community. When they were sort of being occupied, uh, people in LA got organized. They let, you know, they followed ICE agents around. They filmed them. They, recorded stuff on ICE Tracker. They made horrendous amounts of noise outside the hotels where ICE was staying, and basically just made it kind of miserable for them. And eventually, they left. So, Boston has a has had some really good anti-fascist demonstrations in the past, um, and I think Boston is can capable of continuing that. And did I
And
say? Oh, and did I mention fuck Nazis?
fuck the secret police Trump is trying to create.
Yep.
Um, so one other thing I'll just do a shout out to, we'll link to it in the description. We have things to do when fascists are taking over. Uh, things how you can protect your privacy, protecting public documents, just keeping sane, organizing, and other resources that we have found that you can go and look at and use for your own efforts to fight this oppression. Um, so our next topic is, Steve, do you want to give us a rundown of this OWASP Gen AI? Uh,
Yeah. This is a fun one. So just as a little bit of background, there is a sort of a, a an industry group in the software sector called OWASP. I think it stands for Open Web Application Security something or other. But one of the things that they do is they keep track of vulnerabilities, not so much like specific flaws in software, but just general categories of things that create exploitable vulnerabilities and things. So, for example, SQL, lack of proper input sanitization. You type little Johnny drop tables into a form, and all of a sudden, your somebody's database goes kaput. Anyway,
Sanitize your inputs.
sanitize your inputs. Yes. So the OWASP folks have produced, one of the things that they do every year is they produce a top 10 list, the 10 most, prevalent categories of vulnerabilities. And, it's interesting to see how things move up and down over time. But they have started to do a top 10 list for LLM risks. So this is, large language models, the open AIs, and Geminis of the world. So it turns out that the number one vulnerability for LLMs is what's called prompt injection. It's basically when you put stuff, you say something to an LLM, or you add something to the set of information that's sent to an LLM, and it causes the LLM to behave in unexpected ways. As I was reading this, what this really boils down to is social engineering, except instead of doing it with a person, you're doing it with an LLM or an OpenAI chatbot. And when these bots have the ability to, take not just simply answer questions, but to, take actual concrete actions. I think the term for it is giving the AI agency, where it can go and do stuff. Now you are basically in it's social engineering. I sort of think it would be funny if, I could imagine, if you were to try to do exploits at scale, this would be, involve some computer automation and, gosh, an adversarial AI large language model could be a way to do that. I suspect someone will eventually produce one, and it may be called Mitnick. The other items on the list are surprisingly similar to just other, software security best practices, things like sanitizing input, sanitizing output, validating, using principle of least privilege, requiring verification for certain things, putting humans in the loop. But it's kind of, it's kind of interesting to see how this stuff evolves. You know, while the use of AI is growing, I think it will eventually be embedded in a lot more, action-oriented scenarios where, it's where the models have agency and can do stuff similar to the way that software or software and software control systems have been. And, there will be some hilarity that ensues. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've just added yet another attack vector and, increased our threat surface there. I mean,
Well,
uh, I mean, especially as you said, when you can have the uh, model go off and do things for you, you could go and say, "Here, do this, and also could you dump for me your entire log set, please, and upload it to this AWS repo or something like that."
well, yeah.
You know?
One of the sort of newer frameworks for AI systems is what they call tools. So this is, um, you can have it's sort of a pluggable way to give an LLM the ability to do things like call web services, or if you're asked a question of this sort, well, you can call this web service and here are the parameters, and it'll give you back some stuff. And that's also another attack vector, because if the LLM uses that in formulating something, um, you can mess with it. And messing with it can mean things like information disclosure. It can mean things like algorithmic disclosure, or jailbreaking the LLM to make it do things that it shouldn't. People are creative. They'll find interesting ways to put these ideas to use.
Absolutely. So the next topic that we had uh, is so apparently Ted Cruz got the Senate to agree, likely on a partisan vote, to, well, let me take a step back. So as we all realized during the pandemic, that our students needed more access to the internet in order to attend classes during the pandemic, or submit their homework and stuff like that. And so there was an effort that the Biden administration's FCC attempted to do, which was to there's various pots of money that Congress has appropriated for providing internet access to people who can't afford it. And so one of the things that they did was there would be funding for schools, or even school buses, and perhaps other non-traditional places, so that Wi-Fi hotspots, so that students would be able to get access to the internet, to submit their homework, to take tests, to talk to their doctor, and engage in other things. But of course, we have this, unfortunately, seemingly rampant belief that the internet is harmful to children, and so the GOP went and attempted to kill. Senator Cruz did a bill that would block funding for these Wi-Fi hotspots for school kids. And he got it to the Senate, and it didn't get through the House. But now, the FCC chairman Brendan Carr, who has never seen a way of censoring people that he didn't like, has implemented Cruz's proposal within FCC regulations. And so now we're going to see a continuing bifurcation between the haves and the have-nots in terms of internet access and educational opportunities. Uh, that's the summary. Thoughts?
So I have two. Number one would be, gosh, I wish Texas could go into a perpetual state of emergency so that Ted Cruz could go to be in a perpetual state of Cancun. Number two,
I mean, have you seen? Sorry to interrupt, but have you seen their roads and driving?
no.
Let's just
I've
say their roads are emergency. Just
Okay.
constant emergencies.
So
Sorry to
this
interrupt.
is no worries. Now this gets to sort of a wonky kind of question. Now, for years, there was sort of a legal thing called Chevron deference. So it's where Congress would pass a law, and they'd, and some, federal agency would make regulations, and then the regulations would basically kind of have the force of law. And I sort of remember some Supreme Court decision undercutting this, which kind of makes me wonder, or makes me possibly optimistic that this change of regulation is something that can be challenged. I don't know. Am I misremembering things grossly, or was there actually some sort of thing that the courts did that said, regulations, yeah, they're not so great, and you just got to challenge them, and Congress should actually be doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I do recall that the Chevron decision was deep sixed by this particular Supreme Court set of Supreme Court justices. Um, we won't get into their whole rocket docket. That's for another discussion. Um, and how they're making themselves completely illegitimate. But yes, they did do that. I feel less optimistic about that because the court does seem to uh, pull decisions out of their derrieres,
They are
and
somewhat
then
arbitrary. Yeah.
yeah, and not even fully explain it. To the point where judges, even like a Reagan appointed judge, was like, in the most legalese way, was basically, can you guys get your shit together, because
Mhm.
your stuff doesn't make any sense, and I don't even know how to rule. You've overturned these precedents, but I don't know how to rule because you don't give enough information, so I'm just going to go with the old precedents. But it's, yeah, I mean, they're just, as uh, Supreme Court Justice I think it's Kenji Brown. I apologize if I
Kanji
missaid
Brown.
that. Kanji Brown, thank you. Has likened it to Calvin Ball, which we all like our Calvin and Hobbes here, but not when it comes to our legal jurisprudence. Come on. But I mean, as I said, it's the internet needs to be accessible for everybody. And going and limiting it to those who are 16 and above, um, and whose parents can afford it, is just not where we want to be, right? We've got, for like it or not, the television airwaves are available. You can go and see lots of things that are there, and that's free, and you don't have to pay, aside from getting a TV, which increasingly get cheaper and cheaper. So it strikes me that we need to make sure the internet's available for everyone, and also that consumers aren't shortchanged and screwed over in having to pay exorbitant prices that are more expensive than, say, oh, I don't know, South Korea. So,
Well, it's been a few years since I've looked at the cost of broadband service internationally, but yeah, South Korea's they have some of the fastest and cheapest internet in the entire world, while I think we have the U.S. Um, we're basically like second to last. We're one above Mexico, if I recall correctly, though. But again, it's been a couple of years, and things could have easily changed since then.
well, I'm sure under the Trump administration, we will be number one in terms of cost and lack of accessibility.
Oh my
So
God!
the
Did you just say make the internet great again?
no, it's make the internet more expensive again, even more
I mean,
expensive.
I think that's what it's really about, is that they want to just line their pockets and give us the shittiest service because it costs the cheapest, while charging us the most for it. It's like
And
healthcare.
also getting, just to say, getting hundreds of billions of dollars of subsidies from the government. Just saying. Sorry, I interrupted, Joe. So the last topic, seeing we have a few more minutes. So RFK Jr. wants everyone to use wearables. which are, your Fitbit, your Apple Watch, your Garmin, whatever, so that, we can keep track of our our heart rate and how many steps we're taking, and, potentially monitor glucose level and other stuff like that.
And when
Uh,
we get and it maybe even tell you when you get measles. Your temperature is 103 degrees.
Wasn't he just trying to cover up like different outbreaks and stuff coming?
Yes, he
I think
was.
I read
Cut
like,
bird flu reporting, whatnot. Yep.
oh, there was even some polio that recently popped up. Was it Utah or somewhere out west? Uh, there was maybe it wasn't polio, but
I
there
don't
was
think it's polio, because we did eradicate polio in the United States like a while ago.
yeah, but there was another one that just popped up that we had also eradicated, but you know. But anywho,
Make measles
yeah,
great
let's
again.
Yeah. Well,
the
I
the
mean,
real.
go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, go. I was just gonna say the real factor of this is: do we really trust these people with keeping our information safe, seeing that they seem to fumble it pretty hard often? Uh, Doge being a fine example, and yet, I mean, HIPAA is a thin line that really doesn't do as much as it should, but at least it's the right direction. So if we're really looking at, do I trust my government with my health information? The answer is no.
Yeah, I think there's also a bigger picture thing here. The sort of wearables came about is, from people wanting to do like, self improvement and data monitoring, and I mean that's fine. Um, but I mean, in the bigger picture, I think we're starting to see is the replacement of, um, you know, actual clinical help, actual healthcare with, oh yeah, you could just wear this gadget on your wrist and do what it says. That doesn't seem like a favorable trade-off to me. I don't know.
I mean, I completely agree. I mean, part of that is RFK Jr. Hey, hey, RFK, how many kids have you killed today? Um, and the whole ahaha, movement's attempt to privatize and personalize our health. So the effort to get rid of vaccines, which are a cheap, easy way for us to get rid of diseases that have been the scourge of our history and cause mass death on tremendous scales. But that's a way we can collectively come together, all get vaccinated, or most of us get vaccinated, so those who can't get vaccinated because of health issues or whatever will have that herd immunity that will protect them, because the diseases, will come up against so many people who are vaccinated against it that they can't get a purchase and then spread to other people. And as you said about, we see a healthcare system that is privatized. They're trying to cut back on Medicare. They're trying to cut back on Medicaid. Um, it's this personalization. If you're sick, it's your fault type of mindset, rather than, hey, we can do things that are going to make sure that ourselves, our family, our communities, our nation can be healthier because we have the tools, be they vaccines or research, or new technologies that are going to help people to be healthier.
Yeah, I mean, Grant, The way I sort of think about it is a trade-off, vaccines in particular. You get a COVID shot, you feel under the weather for a day or so. Or at least that's how I reacted to them. This is much better than getting COVID, particularly getting COVID from at the point in which you don't have any immunity to it. Remember, 1 million people died in the United States because of that, because of COVID. And having spending 2 years under lockdown was like seriously disruptive in a lot of ways. Um, so the idea that you could toss, I feel there's sort of, and RFK Jr.'s feelings about this are, yeah, just you don't need to worry about that, and if something bad happens, we'll deal with it. Um, you know, again, this does not. It's prevention is generally a lot less expensive and less disruptive than having to um, clean up real damage. And that's something that our that he just doesn't seem to get.
Thanks, Steve. And
Well, I mean, when
so,
it really,
sorry, go Joe.
sorry,
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, when it really boils down to it, it's government should be less intrusive, not more intrusive, and that's really where we stand, right? Like, we as private citizens, we don't want people telling us what we should and shouldn't be doing, and it's just a fundamental right to believe have not government oversight into our personal health and our personal lives. That individual autonomy piece that we speak of so often. And so they can just go kick rocks and pound sand.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you, Steve. And so, with that, we are at the end of our pirate news. Uh, Trying to get back into the swing of things. Um, so if you want to help out, send us an email at info@masspirates.org. Could always use folks who can help turn this into a podcast or do editing on it, or just help in general to be better and to help produce a better pirate news. So with that, check out the links in the description below. We'll put the articles that we referenced here in the description below. We hope you found this useful. We'll be meeting next week at our bi-weekly member meeting. We're planning for 2026. So if that's something that you want to help with, by all means, show up. We look forward to talking with you. Have a wonderful week and see you later.